I'm so excited to take you guys on a tour of the Chef's Garden. It's a regenerative farm out in Ohio. I first had Dr. Amy Sapola, who is their pharmacist with an F. She is a very accomplished pharmacist, actually, who came over into the wellness side of things and was on the podcast talking about regenerative farming. And I was very excited to meet these guys because it can sometimes be hard to find regenerative produce. And these guys actually ship to people's homes, which is super cool. And so they invited me out to check out the farm. I was just blown away. So in this episode, we're going to tour not only the farm, and we're going to hear from Bob Jones, one of the partners of the owners. So Lee Jones, some of you guys might know farmer Lee Jones, and then his brother Bob Jones Jr. Are the two owners of the Chef's Garden. And so I got to interview Bob. What an amazing man. I was so impressed with him from just a leadership standpoint and just a good human standpoint. And we also got to tour their actual research facility that they have on the farm. So really cool. So they're testing the mineral content of their soils, of their plants. We got to go to their microgreens, which just blew me away. And also the Culinary Vegetable Institute. So Chef Jamie Sampson is the chef there, and people come from all over to learn from Chef Jamie because really they're kind of known as like the nose to tail people. They're like the nose to tail plant people. So it's about eating all parts of the plants. So really cool. Chef Jamie showed us the bees. We got to go through his little edible garden. It looks like a decorative garden that it's just a beautiful landscaping, but it's all edible. It was so cool and so fun. I'm excited to educate you guys today. We also talked to the soil health specialist there. And so I'm going to show you guys around everything that I learned all about regenerative farming and what you might not know. And make sure that you check them out. It's thechefsgarden.com. We'll put all the links, everything in the show notes. And yeah, let's go on a little journey. You ready?
Welcome to Farmer Jones Farm Market.
Bob, thank you so much for coming out and talking about soil health, planetary health, human health. I was wondering if you could share a little bit about how you guys got here in Ohio, you're surrounded by
corn, beans, and wheat.
Corn, beans, and wheat, exactly. So how did this happen? What was the story for your family?
We've been vegetable growers all of our life. And Dad started growing vegetables in the early 60s, even into the late 50s a little bit, and grew his business. He became a very large wholesale grower. We talk a lot about how in the United States today, agriculture is broken, both economically and agronomically. And we were a microcosm of that in our family. Dad's business grew to about 1,200 acres of wholesale vegetables. And he was selling semi-loads of fresh produce. We would load 10 or 15 loads every day. He had a large retailer in the Midwest that was his biggest customer. They were 120-day pay. So it was, going on 6 months before you got your money.
Wow.
At the same time, the model back in the 80s and still employed today is that farmers will borrow operating capital in the winter. You'll farm all season long in hopes that you have a great year and you can pay that back. And then you massage the books and you go back to the bank and you beg for more operating money for the next season. Dad's last operating note was 23% interest.
Wow.
And his largest customer was 120-day pay. And we wondered why that didn't work.
Wow.
We were borrowing money at 23%. We were loaning it at 0%. And agronomically, at the same time, we were seeing that it was requiring greater and greater amounts of inputs to produce the same or less outputs.
Wow.
So something was off. We really didn't understand what it was.
Wow.
Our farm went through several evolutions. We lost the farm in 1983. We went from 12 acres in 83 to 6 acres in 1984.
Wow.
We were a large wholesale, so it was economics 101. Large volume, low margin, wait for your money. To 6 acres of retail. So it was a farm market, roadside stand, and farmers markets. Mm-hmm. It was much lower volume, but higher margin, cash. And that economic model worked.
Right.
While we were at farmers markets, we ran into some chefs. There were chefs in the Cleveland area that could not get good quality produce from their normal vendors, so they started coming to the farmers market to buy produce. And their business grew and grew, and one chef introduced us to another, who introduced us to another. And after about 4 or 5 years of doing farm markets and chefs, we had to make a decision. We chose to go with the chefs. And then Lee went out and found every chef he could find. And Dad and I figured out how to grow the stuff. The chefs were very, very consistent in their requirements. Flavor, aesthetics, flavor, shelf life, and more flavor. What we started growing and selecting varieties and growing specifically for flavor. What we didn't know 30 years ago was that as we were selecting for varieties and growing for flavor, that we were dragging nutrition along kicking and screaming.
Right.
You know, color is nutrition, color is flavor. That just wasn't our target. It was an unintended consequence. Here we are.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Food that tastes good is nutritious. That's
we talk
crazy.
The best example that I can think of is the Burger King tomato. If it weren't round and red, you wouldn't know the darn thing was a tomato.
Nope.
The box it comes in has more fiber than the tomato. But everybody recognizes that. And actually, tomato breeders around the world did exactly what the industry asked them to do. Right? Grow for consistency of size and shape and shipping characteristics.
Wow.
So that tomato could withstand a ride from Mexico to New York City.
Right.
They did exactly what the industry asked them. Flavor was left out of the equation. And now here we are growing heirloom varieties on healthy soil because the darn things actually taste good and people will eat them.
They taste so good. I just had one of your pineapple tomatillos today. Unreal. Life-changing.
It's like candy.
Candy. I was like, is it going to be rude if I just start binge eating these in front of them? Or, yeah. And even the tomatoes I had last night, these beautiful heirloom tomatoes, it was like, I literally felt sad. I mean, I felt grateful, and I also felt sad because I was like, no wonder people aren't eating healthy food, natural foods, because they don't normally taste like this. It was like every pleasure center in my brain was like, yum, and I was like, think about how much more kids would eat vegetables if they tasted that way. Right. And on top of the taste, like you talk about dragging nutrition with it, like you're not just guessing on that. You actually know. You guys actually have a research facility here where you're looking, you're curious, like how does this compare to the stuff that was grown in Mexico and driven across borders? Can you share a little bit about like why did you start doing that? How did that come about, and what have you found?
Well, we certainly are curious, and the curiosity is really what has driven the business. So we had a customer base who was looking for flavor and shelf life. And we set about to try and learn how to accomplish that, how to meet and exceed customer expectation.
Yeah.
And so we built a very crude lab that preceded this one. It was in an old truck, semi-truck that was set on the ground. And we started looking at soil health. We started looking at plant genetics. So we don't use any GMOs or genetically modified, but we do employ genetic selection. So we'll plant 100 varieties of a specific tomato, and we will select out the 10 healthiest plants, and we'll save seed from those 10. And then we'll do it again and self-select again.
Wow.
And we will do variety trials with chefs and let them tell us which is their favorite tomato.
Amazing.
But figuring out how to grow this stuff and then correlating our growing methodologies to soil health, plant health, and then human health. Now we're correlating that back as we learn more and more about rotation and cover crop and fallow. We're using multi-species cover crops. So when we plant cover crop on a piece of land that is not going to get vegetables this year, we will plant 10 to 12 different species of cover crop in that planting. Diversity is beneficial in life.
Yep.
Now, you can employ that 100 different ways. Every plant species is a host to a different range of bacteria and fungi in the soil. So if you have one crop, you get a very narrow band of biology that is being supported by that plant root exudate. If you plant 10 to 12, you have a diversity of plant species, a diversity of microbiological life, and you can actually unlock legacy minerals that are in the soil. We're about 3 miles from Lake Erie. We have a real problem in Lake Erie with algal bloom as a result of phosphorus and nitrogen runoff of ag land. Now, ag isn't the only contributor to this. There are others as well, but ag is the primary one. We have more phosphorus, legacy phosphorus, in our soils than we need to grow any crop we grow. It's just not in the right chemical form to be available to a plant. Plants need nitrogen, plants need phosphorus. If you can unlock that legacy mineral in the soil, you don't have to supplement it with petroleum-based fertilizers. Okay? That's where most of our fertilizers come from, are petroleum derivatives. We didn't use man-made amendments in agriculture until after World War II. There were lots of chemicals being made for the war effort that were no longer needed post-World War II, and they started using them in agriculture.
Yeah.
If they put these certain chemicals on the field, the weeds didn't grow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, let's do that.
I got curious who was the original creator of glyphosate. And it was the guy who created the gas for the gas chambers in Nazi Germany. Literally was the chemical genius that they created glyphosate for. I was like, go figure.
Right. So what we've learned over the years is that maybe some of those practices that we employed early on in modern agriculture aren't the best for us. So, we tend to look at natural processes and how do we accentuate natural processes. Multi-species cover crop, healthy soils, healthy plants, healthy people, healthy planet. When we're planting a multi-species cover crop, we can sequester 10 times the amount of carbon from the atmosphere as a mature forest.
Wow.
So we're pulling carbon from the air and putting it in soil organic carbon, and we're using that native phosphorus, native legacy nitrogen to grow that crop. But when the soil becomes healthier, the plant becomes healthier, and that makes the food, the end result, taste better and be more nutrient dense.
Yeah.
It all works together when we better understand natural processes and then leverage nature.
Yes.
We're really all about energy. So plants, through photosynthesis, are converting light energy to chemical energy. In general, plants use about 50% of the photosynthetic energy that they produce. The rest is excreted out through the roots into the soil and becomes a food source for that microbiological life in the soil. So there's a symbiotic relationship between the plant and the organism in the soil. We work a lot with photosynthetic efficiency. How do we create an optimum environment for those microbes to live in the soil and feed them? Microbes are no different than you and I. If we're getting enough rest, we're eating right, and we're getting a little bit of rest, our bodies perform better. Microbes are the exact same way. If they're getting the food, if they're getting the rest, so don't plant a crop on it every year. Let it set fallow. But when it's fallow, multi-species cover crop to feed that soil, not just barren. We don't want bare soil ever, because you're releasing carbon into the atmosphere versus sinking carbon in.
Right.
We have learned a lot, and probably the most important thing we've learned, Tara, is how little we know. You don't know how much you have to know just in order to know how little you know.
Well said. Yeah, and I took a little stroll through your property over by your culinary vegetable institute. It's called, correct? And Amy told me I could walk through there, and it's very just heavily dense plants everywhere. And as I was walking through, I just thought, we're making it so hard on ourselves. Like, I saw a orange leaf fall off a tree and right in front of me and hit the ground, and I thought, nature just takes care of it. Nature's like, okay, you lived your life. Now you're going to turn back into compost. You're going to feed the soil and the microbes, and then we're going to grow again. And it's just the cycle that just takes care of itself. And I understand that we intervene sometimes because we want to grow, but the way you guys are doing it is you're mimicking nature. You're saying, how does nature do it? And how can we help? How can we be stewards and assist in this process versus completely removing ourselves from the natural processes, which is a lot of what we've done. Some people are a little bit, they think it was malice, and maybe it was on how, I look at it as, I don't think we realized what we were doing, and now, like, as you said, we've learned more. And I'm curious, as you've gone through this process of, okay, unlocking these minerals, not to mention the water conservation that's got to happen from having these cover crops, not having the ground super hot by having the cover crops. What have you guys learned in terms of the nutrient density of the plants?
Well, certainly, any time that you grow and utilize a natural process, everything becomes better. Yeah. So our soils have the ability to regenerate and heal themselves if we follow the natural processes. Isn't it amazing? Our bodies are exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Our bodies can heal themselves and regenerate themselves if they're getting the same things that the soil is getting. It's getting proper food, enough hydration, and rest.
Yeah.
That's when we tend to get sick, is when we're run down, we're not eating properly, we're not exercising enough, and our body's tolerances and our resistance to disease is lessened, and then the disease overcomes. It's survival of the fittest, right? Whichever is dominant, right? In soil, it's aerobic bacteria or anaerobic bacteria. And you want anaerobics, but at about 10 to 1.
A little bit of stress is good. Too much stress, not good.
Exactly. And so understanding these natural processes brings along the flavor and the nutritional density.
Yeah.
As chefs 30 years ago asked us to grow the most flavorful produce that we could possibly find, we had no idea that we were dragging nutrition along, kicking and screaming. Eat the rainbow.
Yeah.
Color is flavor. What we have learned in our lab is that, when you get the reds in the red lettuces, and you get those phenols and the phytonutrients, and you get things so important to the regeneration of our health, that we've lived so long and consumed so much highly processed food that all of those good things are processed right out of our food. And then we wonder why, as that nutritional density has fallen, human health maladies have increased. And they're almost an inverse relationship. And we wonder why that is so. We have the cheapest per capita spending of any industrialized nation in the world on food. And we have the highest per capita spending of any industrialized nation in the world on healthcare.
Yeah.
There's a direct correlation.
100%.
We are paying for our cheap food.
Yeah, right.
And it's killing us.
100%. I heard somebody say once, for the first time in human history, we are overfed and malnourished.
We have obese people dying of malnutrition in our country.
Right. And it's, I always tell my clients and people that I talk to be a nutrient hunter. If you can look at nutrition that way, just hunt how many nutrients can I get into my body, it just gets so easy.
Well, your body will sort it out, and it will pull what it needs.
Right.
Plants are the exact same way. The plants need different minerals at different stages of growth. It's amazing how that plant knows what it needs when it needs it, and that's when it will absorb those minerals.
Wow.
Exactly when that plant needs it. Whether it's early in its life stage, whether it's producing a flower, whether it's producing a seed. It will pull different amounts of energy from photosynthesis
Wow.
or from the soil.
Wow, I
It's-
never thought about that. That the plants are intuitive. It's kind of like,
Absolutely.
as an example, I love sweet potatoes. A lot of my friends know that I just love sweet potatoes, and I also love chickpeas or garbanzo beans. And I did a hair mineral analysis and found out that I was low in manganese, right? And so I got curious. Two of the highest sources of manganese, sweet potatoes and chickpeas. I was like, no wonder I wanted. My body's like, eat those, please.
Right.
Eat those.
It's
and
telling
the
you
plants,
what it needs.
And the plants are doing that too. They're
Absolutely.
intuitive with what they need.
And if the soil is healthy, and if you have the soil balanced nutritionally, then the plant can grow and thrive. That's why it's so. We talk a lot about here on the farm that soils are the most important crop we grow. Healthy soils, healthy plants, healthy people, healthy planet.
Yeah, I'm a geek on this, so I don't know if you've seen what's that soil documentary? Now it's escaping
Kiss the
me.
Ground?
Kiss the Ground. And if you guys haven't seen that, I definitely recommend watching
Absolutely.
that one. But it's all about that and helping us understand that like we are all one, we are all connected, right? And we forget that sometimes. Our chicken is the same thing as a Cheez-It, and it's like no, it's not the same thing. And the more we can increase the biodiversity, that I think for me, like I feel like I have very good gut health, and I think the reason why is because I eat so many different things. Right. And I try to eat as nutritionally dense as possible. Minerals, vitamins, I'm hunting for it always. And I'm like, here you go, body, you're going to love this. And I think as we get into that mindset, and that's why I really appreciate, I was telling Amy, I really appreciate what you guys have done, because for those of us who understand that we don't want to eat empty foods anymore. We want to eat foods that are nutritionally dense. And I have 4 kids, and I know as a parent, it's like I'm trying to give them, they're going to eat the Takis and have Mountain Dew at their friend's house. And it's going to happen, But for me, what I'm trying to show them is like, see how you feel when you eat this thing that's full of nutrients. Cut this up yourself. Connect with it, and get those nutrients in your body. I feel like if we have the nutrients in place, we have that diversity, we have all the things our body needs, they can deal with the stressors better. But when you're missing key vitamins, key minerals, those stressors become big. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing. And I can't get over, I love that it came as a byproduct of just trying to make your vegetables taste really good. It's just, I love it,
Right.
and I appreciate what you guys have done, and just decades of just consistently, how can we improve this? How can we improve this? Because it's vital for planetary health. I hope that there are other farmers, that might come across this episode that are inspired by it, because there's a huge need for it. There's a lot of people who want it, and I also appreciate that the shutdown kind of pushed you guys into a place where you're now delivering to the general public, because
Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And if we're lifelong learners, we don't have this figured out by a long stretch, but we've learned enough to excite us to go further faster.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are not very many farms in the United States today that are farming regeneratively.
No.
We believe very strongly that this will be market driven.
Yes.
As more and more consumers say, we will not support highly processed food and hollow calories any longer.
Yep. Political vote matters that much in the state of Utah. I'm just going to be real. I know which way it's going to go every time, but with my dollar, every single time that I say, I'm behind this, I vote for this, and it's at least $10, $20, $100 away from the things that I don't want to have happen anymore, and if we're against, I think all of us are against the CAFOs, the animal feed lots, and if you're tired of this, it's like, show up, and I know not everybody, I don't know, I actually have mixed feelings about the money thing, because for example, your wonderful people here gave me a delicious box of carrots and greens and rainbow chard and eggs and just all sorts of wonderful things. And I cooked up a feast this morning. I was chopping up everything, potatoes, squashes, and I'm frying them all up. And I'm like, I look like I barely dented into this box. I just cooked like a huge amount of food for like a family. And I look like I barely touched this. And I think when you look at it that way, if you're eating real food like that, that's nutrient dense, instead of eating out, I think it's cheaper. I really do. I do think that most people could make that shift in the way they're eating. And like you said before about healthcare, it's like down the road, not only do you get to live a higher quality of life, like you just feel better all the time, you'll probably make more money because you're going after goals in life because your brain works and your body's thriving. And then on top of it, you're not having to pay for all this healthcare in the end. Like, I literally think it's less expensive to live that way, you know? And I think it's a mindset switch that people have to have. But if you want to push into eating higher quality food, it's like, okay, don't go to McDonald's, don't go to fast food, don't eat out for lunch. Like, make some of this stuff, bring it with you, and just watch. Because I eat that way, and I feel like I spend less money on food than most people. When I go out to a lunch, if I take my kids, I'm like, that was $60, and we're going to be done right here. I could have gotten a whole huge amount of regenerative meat or vegetables and made endless meals with that, you know?
With the same amount of dollars.
With the same amount of dollars, you know, and it's way more nutrient density and it's time at home. And so I'm calling you guys out. I'm making a push for it, because the more we support people who are doing what you're doing, the more the other people who are doing the things that we're not super big fans of, they start paying attention. They're like, oh, well, I guess I'll just do that since that's a more profitable business model, right? And so that is where we have the power to actually make a difference. And I'm grateful to you guys, because I don't want to be a farmer. I don't want to be a rancher. Thank you for doing it. Thank you for doing it. You know, and the least I can do is support so that I can have access to those things, because otherwise I got to do it all myself, and I don't really want to do that. So thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your interest in what we're doing. We're very passionate about what we do. We love what we do.
Yeah.
We like to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's amazing to us, the amount of interest that people are having today in it. Even we're talking to insurance companies now and talking about preventative care and early detection, and then early detection of coronary disease, and getting people on high nitrate leafy greens for nitric oxide production.
Right.
And being able to prevent and in some cases reverse coronary disease.
Amazing.
It's all work that's been done by the medical professionals. We know carrots and lettuce, but we know that they taste good. We know we've been able to verify that certainly the closer to consumption, or the closer to harvest that you consume, the better off it is. But there's a difference in the varieties and how things are grown to make it healthier for you. And that's really our life's goal, is to create an opportunity for folks who are really passionate about this as we are, to have a ready access where we can grow it and wash it and package it right here on the farm, and it can be at your doorstep the next morning.
It's amazing. Thank you for creating that. It's so, and it's Amy shipped me one of your boxes, so thank you so much. And I cannot tell you, like, when my kids opened that, but they were so excited about it. Everything stopped. Everybody stopped and just started cutting up stuff, tasting stuff. Like, it was this bonding experience, right? And they wanted to try cooking them. And so just encourage you guys to just try one of their boxes seriously and get your kids involved, because they were so excited about it. They were eating it, you know, and you've got eggplants that are this big. Yeah. It's crazy. It's fun. It's literally fun, you know? So thank you for creating it. Thank you for making it accessible to people like us. I was beyond excited to find out about you guys. I was just like, they've got the plants. I can't find regenerative plants anywhere. They got them and they'll ship them to your door the next day. I was losing my mind. So thank you. Thank you for the work that you put in. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for sharing with us. I'm beyond grateful.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming out.
We're growing things that maybe shouldn't exist in Northeast Ohio, but
Wow. Oh, wow. Amazing. All right, so this is just like a decorative landscaping project, right?
not really. No, it's all edible. The whole thing, you know, it's
everything.
There's like a I don't know, hundreds of plants in this thing. It's definitely an experiment. We're growing things that maybe shouldn't exist in Northeast Ohio, but
wow.
But it's cool. Like this.
Literally everything. You
yeah.
These red.
Yeah, so this
Fuzzy flowers.
this is a plant you see as like, decorations and
Right.
like, and things. It's, it's celosia. It's related to spinach, beets, amaranth, quinoa, all those plants. They're all in the same family. This thing, it's not delicious. These things, they're really great. They're kind of like spinach and beet greens had a baby or something.
Wow.
And look, come on this side and just look down at the stem. Like, it's a flat fern,
Wow.
like crazy stem.
That is crazy.
Just peel that, blanch it, treat it like a vegetable. The plant's
What's this one called again?
celosia.
Wow. It's beautiful too.
I guess it's a common name, or would be like coxcomb. This
Okay.
is like, you could see like the rooster crest, the cresta de
Right.
gallo. Oh, that's cool.
What's this red stuff right here?
So that's celosia also. It's amaranth. It's much more closely related to amaranth.
Okay.
It'll produce like these tiny little seeds, and we're not quite there yet. Those seeds will pop like popcorn.
Okay.
It's smaller than quinoa, smaller than caniwa.
Wow.
The experiment in this bed was to write CVI in big letters, but plants are plants, and it didn't work. Sweet potatoes. We love this plant. The whole plant is edible.
Yeah, I just tried this earlier today. It is incredibly good.
Yeah, so people don't think about you can think about this. So you got like a dozen or so sweet potatoes planted here. Well, that's going to turn into, maybe a few dozen sweet potatoes, but ultimately throughout the year, the summer months, before this plant's done, you have this. It's a healthy green. Like, there's a ton of food on this plant. This is your sort of root to tip of nose to tail of the vegetable world.
Yeah.
You'll see this throughout this entire garden. Every single stage of the plant's life offers something unique to the plate. We want to celebrate that. We highlight it. We try and identify plants that that play in that same sandbox.
How can people find out about more of, which leaves of plants are edible?
We just spent 3.5 years of our life writing a book to help people answer that question.
Nice.
The Chef's Garden Guide to Common and Unusual Vegetables is really written for that purpose. It doesn't really talk about sweet potatoes so much. It talks about the leaves. We also highlight unusual varieties of sweet potatoes and like unusual things to do with them, but that concept is applied to 600 other varieties of vegetables throughout the 1,000-page book. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, think of how much food we're wasting here.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, a farmer grows a zucchini plant, right? He's got this big, beautiful plant, and he picks that zucchini to fit in the box, that fits on the pallet, that fits on the truck, that fits in the refrigerator or the warehouse somewhere, who knows where, that ultimately will land to you. He's not a bad farmer. He's not a bad guy. He's doing the job. He picks the perfect zucchini that fits in the box. The whole plant's edible. The limb, the leaves, the stems, the blooms, the seeds, the pollen, the roots, the whole thing. The fruit, obviously. And at every stage of that fruit, right, you probably saw it on the farm today. The little ones, like the medium ones, the big ones, the big ones. A zucchini will turn into like a pumpkin if you let it, right? It'll get a hard shell, really weird, porous, spongy flesh, and these hard seeds. It's cool. It's a different animal. It's still edible. It's just, different. Maybe interesting here. I don't know. This is beautiful. So, this is Malabar spinach. It's not like, botanically spinach, but we call it spinach. The leaves are like juicy and full of moisture. And they produce these berries. They're beautiful. They taste like spinach. They don't taste like,
Wow.
they don't taste like berries, but they're great. I love this plant a lot. I love its stem. I love the leaves. I love the blooms. I love the fruit. I love the whole plant. It's great.
Are any of these plants that your chefs commonly use, or
Yeah.
are these all pretty rare?
Yeah. So this would be some of these ingredients are things that like you'll see that we will send to restaurants, around the country. Um, you know, in some cases it's, you know, just the tendril, right? And you might see like a package or container of those, and sometimes it's the big leaves, right? And this is the key really to the chef's garden. I said we grow 600 varieties or so of vegetables, but within that there's 10,000 SKUs, right? And so at any time you're managing 10,000 living, breathing, growing SKUs that are supposed to be replicable, right? If I can put this on my menu, I need it tomorrow too.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
in some cases it's not possible. You know, this is why I love a walk through the garden, because you can find little moments that just won't exist tomorrow. And you put that thing on a plate, and that's the dish. You know, that's the story. It's great.
Wow. What about this guy? This red.
Yeah, this is Oh, let me think about that one for a second. Oh, so this is perilla. It's related to shiso or basil. It's in the mint family.
Yeah, it looks like it.
One way, you know, you can tell if something's in the mint family is just to get a cross section of the stem. If it's square, it's in the mint family. Pretty easy to identify, whether you're out in the woods, in the fields, like in a nursery or wherever.
It's good to know.
Square stem, mint family. Doesn't smell like mint. Doesn't taste like mint. Doesn't taste like basil. Doesn't taste like shiso. But they're really beautiful.
Wow.
You see, these are butterfly pea blossoms. These we use in tea. They're pH sensitive, so if you make a tea with this, it'll brew blue. If you add lemon, it turns pink. Very gorgeous. It's really a cool plant. It's a little Japanese bonsai,
Wow.
prickly ash.
You can eat it?
Yeah, it makes your mouth numb. It's kind of an unusual, beautiful sensation. Your mouth will water. It gets like kind of cold. Water itself appears colder than it is. You know, it's a really interesting, beautiful plant that tastes unlike anything else in this garden.
Wow.
You can do it? One?
Yeah.
You'll taste it for 4 or 5 minutes.
It's great.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Basil, here and there, voluntary. Let's see. One of our jobs here, you know, at the Culinary Vegetable Institute is really to give people a better understanding of like diversity, where their food comes from, who grows it, how's it being grown. You know, in this industry, it's so often you're cooking at home and something calls for mint, you just get mint. Right? And here's a mint garden, and there's maybe 16 or 17 varieties of mint here. Right? And then you get to ask the question, what kind of mint? You know, you're working through that dish, or you're making the cocktail, or you're doing whatever, dessert, and it's not just the ubiquitous mint. You know, it's all about diversity, you know, and now we have mint that tastes like the apples and chocolate and, you know, lemons and, you know, like menthol and spearmint and peppermint. It's pretty cool.
It's like a dish calling for meat.
Yeah, sure. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Add meat.
Add meat.
Gee, these are all great. I want you to just smell them. It's going to be hard to convey it on the camera, but you want to kind of rough this leaf up a little bit.
And what is this?
This is verbena. It's a
Oh, I can smell it from
yeah,
here.
it's crazy. It's beautiful.
Amazing.
You know, it's the same compounds that's in a box of Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
It's the same.
That's crazy. Those light green ones and the dark purple are both sweet potato, right?
Yeah.
Are they different varieties of sweet potato? Just that's it?
Yeah, so this light green leaf is a like an orange skin, orange flesh, Beauregard Southern style sweet potato. And then this longer purple leaf, it's a purple skin, orange flesh variety of sweet potato. They're pretty prolific. They grow very well here. They don't require much maintenance.
Is this a squash? These big dinosaur plant looking things?
Yeah, let's get in it. Come on in. You're not going to hurt anything over here. Can you see that guy?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yes. It used to be a zucchini. It just grew too long. I'm just kidding.
No, it's my baby. I'm working on this. I've been working on this one.
That's amazing.
It's a giant pumpkin. It's not... Every year I try and plant a giant pumpkin. This year it got away from me. So
Hey,
we have pumpkin soup.
Super pumpkin?
Yes.
Oh, the lavender smells amazing.
Any guesses?
Can I smell it first?
Absolutely. You're not going to recognize it.
No, it's kind of lemony smelling. I don't know what it is though.
Yeah. It's an interesting plant. This is one of the few things you get to see in the grocery store in multiple aisles, right? In the spice section, it's known as fennel seed.
Yeah, okay.
You know, in the produce section, you get the bulb.
This is just fennel?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. It's all just young, bolted
wow.
fennel.
What's this over here? This lush green.
So this plant is related to the cucumber, the pumpkin, the squash. They're all in the same family, but it doesn't make a melon or a fruit. It makes this flower that's so precious to the bees. It's kind of a star-shaped blossom. I'll pull one right there. They hang upside down. See it? The bees go crazy for these things. It's called borage. And the borage blossom tastes like, like melon, cucumber, seaweed.
Interesting.
I don't know if you can capture it, but while we're here, the flower hangs upside down because it's designed for the pollinator. When the bee jumps off of the flower, it flicks back up and drops pollen on the bee's belly. So when it goes on to the next flower, it's naturally pollinating.
Wow.
Watch, you'll see the flower flick back up. Right when it comes off, it just flicks off. It's very cool.
Wow.
If they start by laying eggs, this gate will be wide open. But until they start laying eggs, they're going to establish this place as home. And you know, their favorite thing, high protein, nutrient dense mealworms.
Oh, wow. Amazing. So no grains for these guys?
Oh yeah.
I love big green too. Oh yeah, they're pretty excited about that.
There's a little cricket. Why not?
Do you know off the top of your head who produces what color eggs?
No, not yet. So these are all bantams. There will always be small chickens.
Oh, okay.
They'll never be like those big, big massive chickens. But they lay small eggs with big yolks, and I think they'll be great for the breakfast baskets in the suite upstairs. Chickens are also a great way to work through some of those kitchen scraps. The peels and the leaves and things like that. Right now they're young. We're just trying to get them comfortable with people. Do you see this fluffy one with the backwards feathers over there? She's pretty fabulous.
Her feathers always like that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Nice feathers. And that's the one rooster, the black guy over there. He's a black Sumatra. He's beautiful. When he's full grown, he's like got like a 2-foot long tail. He's a really cool bird. Hi. Come on. Yeah, we do it like twice a day. We'll come out, just do a little bit of like this kind of handling, just to, keep them.
Yeah.
Great. And they, twice a day you have to clean that because they kick straw into it.
Twice a day.
Twice a day, 2 times. True. Right, it's like this little, like, different shape. And the only difference between the egg from this cell and this cell is the shape of the. So you'll see there's 31 beehives in this yard, and notice they're all facing the same direction, right? And they're all protected from the same side in the same direction, right? And the basic reason for that is Lake Erie in Canada is that way, and sunrise is that way. So when the sun comes up over these trees, the first thing these hives see is, the morning, right? The first thing that these boxes get is sunlight. And that's important because any flower produces its nectar first thing in the morning, right? And you'll see bees coming out in the morning. Ideally, you want to get them out as early as possible because that's when the flowers are producing the most nectar. Does that make sense? It's good for me, it's good for the bees, it's good for the world, it's good for the vegetables, it's good for everything. On this property, we grow 65 varieties of edible flowers, and we keep them on at all times, right, throughout the year. From the very beginning part of the spring, we try and have an abundance of flowers from now all the way to the end. We're also on the river, the Huron River. That's important because these bees drink a ton of water. People don't think about that. They're thirsty. They need water. So we're right on a peninsula. We're 100 acres here, mostly wooded, with 31 hives and 65 varieties of edible flowers throughout the year. You'll see things like clover honey and buckwheat honey and orange blossom and whatever honey, in stores. We can't do that because of the biodiversity here. We're not a monoculture or a monocrop. We're not one big farm with one big kind of plant. We have a ton of different plants here. We celebrate that. You can taste it in the honey. The bee that goes out to bring back nectar from the flowers, she's not the same bee that puts it in the comb, right? And that's pretty cool because now you've got some bees up here, right? This is where the honey production is. But you've got some bees up here that, are responsible for like storage, right? They're just like the closet keepers. They're the ones organizing and folding the sheets and stuff. They're basically the worker bee that goes out, she gets the nectar, she comes back, she gives it to another bee that then like organizes it in the hive. And that's cool because then you find these pockets in the comb. You'll dig into there and, one tastes like mint and another one might taste like lavender and another one might taste like hyssop and another one might taste like nasturtium for some reason. It's cool. Side by side in the same frame, you can taste different pockets of honey. That's pretty awesome. There's only one queen in each one of these colonies, right? So you've got 31 hives. That means 31 queens. 31 queens have got to do their work. We start at about 10,000 bees in the spring, and right around this time of year, we're wrapping up at, 60,000, 70,000 bees per box. So times 35, you tell me. The bees themselves are mostly females. If I see one, I'll point one out, but there's a few male bees per hive. Their job is to really wait and hope for the scent of a pheromone of a virgin queen flying in the sky that they can then meet way up there, breed with, and then die. That's their whole job. If they're lucky, right? And the likelihood of that even happening is not likely. But in the fall, right about now, the male bee population diminishes to 0 because the chance of that happening in the winter is not likely, impossible. Basically, these worker bees, the females, they drag the male out of the hive, they chew their wings off and drop them out in the grass somewhere, and that's it. So it's done. You don't want to be a male bee. You don't want to be a male bee in the fall. For the rest of them, they have different jobs. You've got some that, go out and find honey, and then they come back and they tell the other bees where that honey is, and then the worker bees will go out and hit that until there's no more nectar available. Some bees, their job is to scout for a potential home, right? In the event that let's say the hive catches on fire, they've got to fly off, and they have to have a backup plan. They try to keep those pretty much. Some bees' job is to just tend to the queen, and that's pretty cool. You've got these basically assistant bees just feeding the queen all day long. She'll lay over her body weight a day in larvae. That's pretty crazy, right? Imagine giving birth to something over your body weight every day. So she needs a lot of food, a lot of food. There's 3 or 4 bees helping her out with that.
Is the queen a specific different kind of bee? How does it become the queen?
That's a great question. The queen is... Okay, so here's how this will work. Imagine you're a queen bee, and you're going from cell to cell. There's 1,000 cells in each side of honeycomb in this box. She's going from cell to cell, and she's laying eggs all day long. Well, one of these cells is shaped different than the others. This one special little cell, it's called a queen cup. The queen cup, then the other bees go around her and they build that egg out and that cell out into this larger thing. It almost looks like an upside down morel mushroom, right? It's this little, different shape. And the only difference between the egg from this cell and this cell is the shape of the cell and the amount of time and protein that egg was given to develop. So because it has more space, it has more time, it's got more food, royal jelly they call it. And that bee, which very easily could have been a worker bee or a male bee or any other bee, just happens to emerge as a queen. While these worker bees will live 4 to 6 months in the summer, a queen bee can live 4 years in a hive. That's pretty amazing. It's really not a different... Yeah, anatomically, it's very different, right? You look at it, and it doesn't have the mouth to feed itself. It's got this massive abdomen for just laying eggs all day. It can't fly. It's heavy. It's 2.5 times the size of these other bees. And the only difference is the shape of the cell. It was, it emerged from its egg in, and the amount of protein it was given to develop, which is pretty cool.
Wow, so it's an environmental circumstance.
Yeah. A sterile work, so if a queen bee happens to die or there's some kind of failure or something goes wrong, they put those queen cells in as a backup plan. It's almost an insurance policy in the event that they have to replace her. If she's not doing her job and they decide to replace her, they'll replace her. I think the question is, if a colony of bees is a form of government, what kind of government would it be? Right? The currency is work, right? The system works, right? As long as everything, around it works. If the queen's not doing her job, then she doesn't rule the hive. The bees replace her. If the worker bees aren't doing their job, they don't rule the hive, the other bees will replace them. Everybody's sort of operating via this currency of productivity. and it's pretty cool. They're more productive. These are the hardest working creatures on our farm right here. You met like the farmers, and we met like me and Amy and all that. We all work hard, but we don't even come close to working this hard. These things work.
Amy was saying that you had bees from different areas of the world. Is that right?
These bees are Italian honeybees with Russian queens, and they're a Russian-Italian cross. Is the function of it, or the thought is, and this, you ask 10 beekeepers 10 questions, you get 12 different answers, 20. The thought on this is, we need a bee that's winter hardy, right? We have these long, dark, brutal winters up here. This whole thing's going to be covered in snow in like 60 days. That's the function of the Russian bloodline, right? We want Russian bees because we know that they can tolerate cold winters. And then the Italian bees are just very productive, nonchalant, not too aggressive, easy to get along with, as long as there's stuff to do. The Italian bees we like their demeanor and their nature. And so
Interesting.
that's the function.
Can we see inside them?
Yeah, let's do it. We're gonna pop one of these open.
Grab your
Put on a hat and take a look and see what's up. This time of summer, and it's time to really get an idea of winterizing, right? Like, we got to get these hives ready for this long, dark, brutal winter. The hives themselves, those bottom two boxes, those two hive bodies, they'll hold about 80 pounds of honey to get through the winter. That's what we want to make sure. We're in harvest, so we're pulling these small boxes off as they're filling up. We'll pull like 12 or 1,300 pounds of honey this year from the 31 hives. Wow. So this right here, so here's how this works. The anatomy of a beehive. Hive body, queen excluder. That keeps the queen out of the honey, right? And then bee excluder. In harvest, right now, you basically leapfrog these bee excluders down the line from super to super. You can see the line we got to do to pull frames. These supers, they'll weigh about 60 pounds each. Swing around here. And you can pop a camera right down in here. These bees are going to be happy we're here. You can kind of see how they fill these frames out. And you just want to soften this up a little bit. You really don't need to, do a whole lot. But I'm going to pull one frame out so you can see. Wax, propolis, honey, wood, smoke. These are all really common and beautiful elements of working a beehive. Yeah, they all smell so good.
Looks heavy. Dense.
Yeah.
Oh man.
The frames weigh
Amazing.
about 6 pounds when they're capped. We wait until they're capped fully.
Capped fully, meaning that honeycomb look that you're seeing?
Yeah, you see it up here.
Yeah.
That's capped, and this is not yet capped.
Got it.
So when it's been capped, it's sealed and ready to go.
I see.
A whole frame, comb like this can last. They found honey still viable in Egypt. Honey lasts forever.
Wow.
It's perfect pH. It's really there's no better form of preservation than what these creatures are able to do.
Amazing.
My name is Pablo, and this is my microherb house. So I grow 18 varieties total, and I want to let you guys try to have a test a little bit. So and I want to explain you a little bit too how I grow and how long it takes to grow from germination to harvest.
Cool.
So okay, so let's go start this bait, please. So I want to let you guys try. This is the lemongrass right here. Lemongrass. I grow 3 different lemons. So this is one of them.
Thank you.
And then this is a special one. Like you smash it to, you can release
Like
the
this? It's
citrus
smash
on the
it.
lemon. Yeah, you can do the same thing like that. You can squish it,
So squish it around and then you smash it on your hand.
and then you can
And then
smell.
you can smell it.
It's
Wow.
intense. Yes.
It smells so
And the
good.
flavor also is different. It's amazing.
Wow.
So I'm gonna let you guys continue here. This is chives.
And you can eat it or you can throw it. Yeah. It's really
Yes,
strong on it.
chives. It's also really intense flavor. This is like a micro chives. So I want you guys to try. Micro chive we grow in different tree sizes. This is a micro size. Also here, this is a mimo size. So most of the chefs they like to have the seeds on top. As you can see here, this is a smaller size we sell. And then let's go continue a little bit here, please.
Yeah.
This is a Calvin P. tendrils.
What is it?
Calvin P. tendrils.
Okay.
Calvin. And then we sell
Thank you.
like the stem with the little tiny leaves.
Just eat the whole thing?
Yeah.
So fresh.
Mm-hmm. It
Yes.
has that like amazing,
It's amazing
flavor.
flavor. Yes.
Refreshing.
And then we sell just like a 50 piece per packages like this. And also we sell like the stem with the leaves. But another grower grow those other P. tendrils. So I want to let you guys try here. This is a red ribbon sorrel. This one we sell by pieces.
Thank you. I love the color on this. This is so popular around Valentine's Day too, but it's like kind of has that sourness. Like,
Yes, it's also, yes. The flavor is very intense.
Wow.
Okay, I want to let you guys continue to the next bait, please. Right. So we want to start with the broccoli. The broccoli, that's my favorite one here, my greenhouse. This flavor, this is amazing. I mean,
this is
you
my
you
favorite.
want to tell me, but that's
Wow,
compared to the
favorite.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh my god. When you a whole bowl of it.
Oh yes,
It's super
so
tender.
good.
Yeah.
And then it's very nutrition-y. Like, it's amazing. I'm gonna show you this. This is a tarragon. Also have a unique flavor too, tarragon.
I like this one a lot
Amazing.
too. I really don't dislike any of them, but
Yeah. Wow.
it's
So
so
good,
strong,
right?
but
Wow.
so good.
So let's go this way, please.
So, I realize I need to add more of this to my food.
Yeah, right?
This is the anise hyssop.
What is it?
Anise hyssop. And the flavor is also like
Wow.
unique, you know?
Very good.
I want to let you guys try the lemon balm, so which is different than the lemongrass, and you guys can tell me
Okay.
the flavor, the difference of the flavor. Okay.
I know, it's like a flavor explosion.
Yeah.
It really
lot of
makes
intense
anything
flavors.
taste good. And the beauty is you can put them on top of like anything. My kids will put them on pizza or like tacos. You can put them on oatmeal. Like eggs are amazing.
This is like what lemon candy wished it tasted like.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so good.
Seriously.
Lemon balm is so calming
Wow.
too.
Yes, this
It's
I
an
love.
amazing
I mean,
herb.
Incredible.
all the flavors. It's amazing. This is a thyme. So it's a little strong flavor.
Thank
This
you.
one. Thyme is amazing too.
Yes, if you're feeling sick at all, time is the way to go. But this is like super potent.
Oh, yeah. It's like comfort food flavor.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's go continue to the last bay, please. Then I can show you one of the number one in the greenhouse. A nutrition seed. Chuck, good morning.
Hi, how are you? Good.
Okay, this is the other lemon. This is a lemon basil. So this family of the basils. So this is one of the number 3 lemons I grow here. So you guys tell me the difference.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
I think each one has its own,
It's
you know,
incredible.
unique
I
flavor.
love that.
I feel like I
Yes.
just ate at a super expensive restaurant just eating these.
Yes, I mean, that's amazing.
That's one of my favorite basils.
Okay, let's go continue. This is the green basil, the most
Thank you.
typical basil. Strong flavor, right?
I can see why you guys have been providing to chefs. I get
Yes,
it.
that's amazing, right?
This is the secret.
Yes. This is opal basil. Opal basil.
What is it?
Opal.
Opal basil.
Opal basil, yes. So it's 4 different basils: Thai basil, lemon basil, green basil, and the opal basil.
And just like Judith was talking about, you can see these are like the first couple of leaves that come out on the plant. So it's really just like the seed sprouts, and it's just the first few leaves. And these have only been growing like 7 to 14 days. So the nutrients are super bioavailable because they're not as bound up like by phytates and oxalates and all the different things that can decrease mineral absorption. So microgreens are more like bioavailable as well, which is really cool.
And then the last one over here. This is the watercress. Watercress is the number 1 in my greenhouse.
I love watercress.
With a lot of nutrition and health. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
on,
Yes.
on the CDC's powerhouse list of fruits and vegetables.
Really? Wow.
That's amazing. Yes. Most of my crops is taken like for the emanation to harvest. It's taken in summertime like let's say 16 to 20 days. And then in winter time it's a little bit more longer because it's short days. So it's taken like a 20 to 26 days pretty much. So, and the broccoli is one of the faster ones. It's taken summertime take only like 8 to 10 days. And in winter time like a 14 to 16 days. So it's amazing.
Holy smokes.
Yes.
Our squash,
And I guess
kales, like flowering.
love to watch the way you made me into a mess. Hands on my dress,
They're still really nice quality
neon red.
tomatoes, and they
You were everything I didn't need until you left.
They're still really nice quality tomatoes, and they are beautifully. Just they taste great, but we're seeing the difference. And you also don't have the pest pressure over here that you do over there.
The pest pressure?
Pest pressure is down here than it is over there.
And these are, you have straw on top of these, and then the black.
And that straw came from fields that are back there by the cornfield, which is adjacent to us.
Wow. So they're growing much more robustly, and you have less.
And the flavor.
And the flavor's better.
Yep. The bricks levels are really are up there or through the roof, and it's just
The bricks levels.
Well, that's your sugar test levels. So that's one way that you can test your.
I see.
It's a way to, but it's not definitive.
Have you tested the mineral content?
Sarah does that.
Okay.
And Judith that you met earlier.
Yes.
They're kind of the ones
what
with
they
the
do.
mineral content.
Got
but
it.
the bricks looks at like dissolved solid.
Okay.
So the higher the bricks, like overall, better, like healthier
Cucumbers and squash plants, that stuff that we have on plastic has a mildew consistency faster. Okay, well, I was reading something where manganese and zinc, which actually combat viruses as well, as we know, if you increase those at the right ratios and the levels, that will actually help combat downy and powdery mildew.
Yeah.
But what I'm also seeing is there's a field down there of melons that there's weeds and everything else that's just grown amongst everything, and the mildew is almost next to non-existent there, versus what we know as plastic is restricting that exchange.
Right. And how were you saying? What were you saying about the hydroponic tomato growers compared to you guys?
So now you got me on there. Hydroponic is it has its value, but you're putting that fertilizer in that plant constantly circulating, and there's not much exchange of mineral, much exchange of the carbon sources and such. There's a large Muji complex up the street here. Real.
It's like
Well, and have you been here in the winter yet?
yeah, it like
Okay, so Leamington. Well, but you can see Leamington, which is due north,
yeah.
because they have so many greenhouses over there.
Oh no, I haven't seen that.
That you could literally not use a GPS. You could just take the boat due north across and just follow that. We used to go over there all the time before they closed the borders down. And their marinas over there are like state parks. They're gorgeous. It's just absolutely. It's like I said, it's only 40 miles across.
I was telling her about how we're trying to reduce tillage as there's tillage going on out here, but can you talk a little bit about like tillage and like kind of some of our ideas around that?
Well, one of the things we're trying to do is go to a no-till approach. It's really challenging when we are growing so much. Now, every week we're putting a half acre of lettuce in the ground. So it's not like your traditional farmer that's doing 10,000 acres of a product where you can look at it from that viewpoint. We're experimenting with this no-till with tomatoes, with squash, with I'm trying to think of another crop right now, cucumbers and such like that, and we're seeing really nice results. We know that the bacteria, if it's not disturbed, it's going to make a plant much healthier. Not any different than our gut health.
Right.
If I choose to drink a bunch of alcohol, I know I'm going to strip a good bit. Or if you do mouthwash in your...
Right.
You know... Okay, come on. So this machine here makes all of our soil. All of the greenhouse soil and all of transplants. So like lettuce, our squash, all the kales, like flowering to such that we transplant outside will start here. Okay. Down the first hopper we have these large skies or pallets of peat moss, and it dumps it into the first hopper, and then the second hopper we have some pine bark that comes to us from the States, watch behind you. And then the third hopper is empty, and then we have these two front hoppers have some fertilizer in it. everything inside is organic. So, and you see the fertility bee has got a little bit of kelp meal, a little bit of biology, and this is mostly lime. Mostly lime. Okay? A little bit of humates in there to help the nutrients attach. They fluff, okay, and then the machine that is down right now will shoot it into one of these bays that are across the way, okay? And then what we do from there, and we do 7 different mixes here. We have a potting soil mix that you saw at CVI when you saw the beautiful flowers over there, and then what you've been seeing in the greenhouses, all the tray. And we do a winter mix and we do a summer mix. And we'll change it up because of drainage and obviously less light. We'll switch those usually October to the winter mix, and then we'll switch tax day around there. It's just kind of a bad date, but hey, we do it. But pine bark, we have to have aged pine bark. So a lot of the product that we're getting in is over a year old because that's helping to break down. And so that will, if it's not real fine, that's actually going to deter from the plant and make the plant less quality as far as nutrient value, because the nitrogen source will be helping to break down the pine bark instead of working within the plant. White bag up top is just perlite. Helps with air and it helps with drainage. This is a soil mix that I don't know if you met George, but he grows the petite root crop where Saul was. So this soil is a little bit more dense so that the root crop can grow in there really easily, okay? And then has more drainage. And then over here, this is the world famous summer mix. And you can see it's a lot less dense. Okay, it'll hold the moisture. So we'll scoop that up. We'll bring it to this ribbon blender. We'll add water, and you'll see Catalina and her husband Ramiro, and they're filling trays, and those are going to have Chinese cabbage, it's going to have mizuna, it's going to have sage, it's going to have everything that you saw in a lot of these greenhouses, and they will be seeded tomorrow morning. So we put a little bit more water in there so that the soil is moist. Hola, Catalina. Hola, Ramiro. Okay. So then, these are our 2 seeders. With these machines, we can program with the computer how many seeds are dropped in each one of those ribs. So this is the 20 wheel. Tray will slide across, go in here, and this cylinder will drop whatever seed that we need to be programmed to. Put it there, go down there, they'll throw some vermiculite out to help put moisture, to help the germination process, and then they'll stack it. Some of them go into a germ chamber that's at about a 80 to 90 degree temperature to help the germination process. Some go straight to the greenhouses. But here's a magical moment. So you're having these trays come through. And then you see a finished product. So today's a Friday seeding. Literally, those trays right there were probably seeded today.
Hey, I need to go with you.
How long do these typically grow before they're harvested?
Most of the crops in here are a 12-day, right now, 12-day to 25-day crop. And then over in Andreas' house where Saul was, most of those are 10-day crops.
Wow, that's a lot of...
So the process is really cool because they have, the seeding schedule tells us here it is, and they know in 10 days this is how much we're going to have. Yeah. RO system, reverse osmosis. We're really working on, with our foliar program, and with the greenhouse program, trying to make sure that we're getting good quality water because we know that's extremely important. Well, it's not any different than, us. I drink reverse osmosis water. I make sure I have enough minerals that I put in some because I know I'm stripping of everything. But if you took a sample of our water, it's pretty high in chlorine.
Yeah.
Fluoride, all the stuff that we really don't want in our waters. So that's pretty much the soil building. Questions? Comments? Here comes.
What's your production level like over the course of a year? Would you say, like, do you have numbers on that? Maybe you're not right.
Well, we have tray numbers. I could tell you we're roughly right now 10,000 trays a week.
1,000 a week.
10,000 a week, and then when we get into the holidays, it's going to go even higher.
And with the fertilizer retention, the mineral retention into the soil, which is a huge issue for us because a lot of cases, if there is going to be bare ground and if you're going to get the rain, a lot of the nutrients, they can go and flush out. There are several different flowering varieties such as Cupid blooms, which is one of our top sellers on the farm, also edible flowers. Also, we do grow several different herb varieties. And also, we do have significant volume of the business is actually coming from microgreens. Now, we were not really sure how familiar are you with the microgreens. Sometimes it's kind of like a little bit of more gray area, for the people, they're not so familiar with that. So we put it up, what do we really include or what do we really understand under microgreens? Technically, microgreens are new and young plants. When you seed them a couple of weeks after the seeding, which is going to become as for microgreens, the first set of leaves which is going to come up, which is called for cotyledon leaves. They might do have the second set of leaf or partial of the second set of leaf, which is also being called as for true leaf. What is the benefit of this type of a planting? Number one, the texture is going to be different than what you would expect as from a full-grown version. It's going to be much more tender. Okay. Having said that, you're definitely going to get the same flavor what you would expect to be able to get as from the full-grown version of it. So that is going to be kind of a very nice combination, which a lot of people and a lot of chefs they like to go and utilize, and not just chef, even professional chef, but even the home chefs, because it is a little bit easier to sell at home. Even I can sell it for the mister, to go and put the microgreens on the top of on the top of a pasta or on the top of a sandwich, which is going to make it very, very nice and very easy as for the application. Also, the second benefit, because technically it is so nice and so tender, it doesn't really require any particular cooking technique, which is going to go and have two benefits. Number one, it's time saving. Number two, because you're going to be able to go and preserve all of the nutrition actually which is located into the plants. It's not going to go and leach out during the different kind of healing processes. Also, what are we doing over here on the farm? We do provide a really wide selection of varieties. Which one we do provide it not just as for different species, different varieties, which is local mate is different, but also we are looking at different life cycles and different stages of the actual plants, which one could go and provide something unique and something different for the chefs. So this is, for example, over here arugula, we do provide it as micro sizing. We do provide a little bit bigger sizing. It's around 3 finger as height wise. That is what we do call for petite, or we can even provide it as around 4 finger height, which is around ultra. Then we do have the baby size, then we do have the young sizing, and we actually do have the flowering stage. When you're looking at the plants, the texture is going to be different, the flavor can be different. The growing condition, if we do grow it inside or outside, is going to go and determine the texture and the flavor as well. And when you're looking at the flavor of the flowering version of the arugula, it's going to be completely different. It's going to have a little bit more sweetness because of the pollen, versus when you're picking it as for an ultra or a baby sizing, which is going to be nice and peppery and spicy, versus a micro, which is going to be a little bit more toned down. It's going to be a little bit more on the milder side. We do the same thing, not just in terms of greens, but we do the same sizing chart as when it comes down to root crops and several other crops. And as I mentioned, we do offer several different nice and unique varieties to be able to go and provide for the chef as much flavors and colors and textures as it is possible. Now, what are we doing? And as they alluded to it in the presentation, we try to go and do farming. We try to approach farming a little different than traditional agriculture techniques are approaching farming. Normally, when you do drive around, especially like in the next month or so in the fields, this is exactly what you're going to be able to see. The big combines, they're going to coming back, and you're going to be able to see bare lands, which is going to go and stay bare through the entire winter time. There is going to be usually no cover crops. They're going to go and supply a lot of nutrients through the different kind of manufactured fertility forms. This is what we do call as like for conventional agriculture. What we do over here on the farm, this is what we do call for regenerative agriculture. Why is it different? When you actually drove in with him, you could go and see like on some of the lands, we still do have cover crops, we still do have crops, although it is not a cash crop, but we're using it to be able to go and rejuvenate the soil. Why is all of this one important? Because when you're looking at like the two different kind of farming techniques, like in a conventional farming, what they have seen, and this is a study which one came out from England, and the study was done between 1940 to 1991, so you're going to be able to see 1940 is always going to be the white line, 1991 is going to be the gray line, and they're going to show like the different kind of minerals over here, and you're going to be able to see the different kind of vegetable crops on the top. And what they have seen, they were studying how did the mineral content actually change during conventional agriculture, which one was booming after World War II all the way up to nowadays, okay? And it's absolutely astonishing, the findings, because what you are going to be able to see, every single mineral with the exceptional phosphorus, every single mineral level actually went down into the plant level. This trend, although this is only showing from 1940 to 1991, this trend hasn't changed. This is actually accelerated. So most cases, what you're finding, like in conventional agriculture, the mineral levels are lesser than they were actually like in the plants in 1940. Also, in the same study, they were looking at the same time frame between 1940 to 1991, the same mineral levels, but they did look at actual like a different kind of protein product, which is even more scarier when you're looking at the numbers. Every single number was actually down. It means the mineral content not just depleted like in a plant level, but is actually depleting into the protein level as well. And most of these, or just about all of these, are due to the agricultural technique, which is usually being how we are actually, what we are actually applying to go and produce our processes, which is normal cases just dumping out fertilizer, dumping out the pesticides, and hope for the best, and we are pushing for the bigger and the highest yield as it is possible, without putting it into consideration the quality of the plant, putting into consideration the quality of the land. What are we doing over here? This is what we do call for regenerative agriculture. And what we try to do over here, we try to go and do carbon sequestration, which is being done through the photosynthesis of the plant, which is going to go and have for us to go and improve the soil health, which is going to have for us to improve not just the crop yield, but also like the water conservation into the soil and the nutrient density. Which is going to go and be showing up into the plants. How is all of this one being done? It's a very simple process. Technically, it's being done through the photosynthesis. Technically, what you do have in there, we do have carbon dioxide, which is around like 21% of carbon dioxide into the air. Then what you're going to have, we are technically gathering the energy of the sunlight, and we are gathering the carbon dioxide. And with the energy of the sunlight, the plant, they can go and capture the carbon dioxide with the addition of water, which is usually coming to the soil level. They're going to be able to create sugars, and they're going to be able to create oxygen. Why is this one important? The oxygen is going to go up to the air, which one is going to go and have for us to be able to maintain the balance between nitrogen and carbon dioxide and the oxygen. And the sugars, part of the sugars is going to go and stay within the plants, and they're going to be able to go and treat it as like an energy source. Another portion of it, they're going to go and feed it to the root level, down to the soil level, to be able to go and feed beneficial microbes, which one can be fungi, which one can be different kind of microbes, such as like bacteria and so forth, which is going to be able to help for them to be able to go and access all of the minerals from the soil, what they're going to need. Instead of supplying the minerals, just like in a fertility, on the traditional commercially available fertility method, we can go and utilize these microbial lives to be able to go and have for us to be able to go and have the minerals available from the soil for the plants. Why is all of this one important? There's a couple of things. Number one, because to be able to go and pull it out like as much carbon dioxide from the air as it is possible, that's going to go and have with the climate crisis I don't think we are hearing anything else besides climate crisis, like in the past 10 years or so forth, which is obviously going to be like a bigger and bigger of an issue. How are we doing this one? Because we not just have like the cash crop, which one we are producing into the ground, but we do have the cover crops when we would have normally like bare land. And what is the cover crop gonna go and do for us? They're still gonna go and capture the carbon dioxide, and they're gonna go and pump it back into the soil. It means we're gonna be able to maintain the microbial life into the soil. It means we can go and completely reduce or completely eliminate the different type of commercial fertility what we need to go and put it out there, because we do have that cycle. And when the cover crops, they're reaching just about like the blooming stage, that's when they would go and start to feed less into the soil microbial life. Then we just usually turn the cover crops into the soil and we start the cycle all over again. So we try to go and building it up like the mineral content of the soil more like on a natural ways. Also, as I mentioned, to be able to go and have the microbial colony, it is definitely going to go and have with the water retention and with the fertility retention, the mineral retention into the soil, which is a huge issue for us, because a lot of cases, if there is going to be bare ground and if you're going to get the rain, a lot of the nutrients, they can go and flush out. Whatever is excess, they're going to go and run down to the lake. We are so close to the lake, and Lake Erie, particularly over here, and it is a huge issue for us to be able to go and deal with the algae bloom, which is largely resulting as like from the phosphate and from the nitrogen runoff from the commercial areas. Also, with the water retention, the more we do have the microbial life, the better is it going to go and have for us to be able to go and mitigate any kind of stress, which one can coming from either excess of the water or the lack of water. So that is also going to go and have for us. And also, the more we can go and play with Mother Nature, and more we're going to go and grow the plants according to Mother Nature versus pushing them for the higher yield and for the faster production, the better is the nutrient density is actually going to be. Now, we actually started to go and do studies in that back in 2020. That was like, as you have seen like in a video, that was kind of like a dark time for us, which one had some upside for us, because it did give for us the time to be able to go and focus on and to be able to go and start to understand what we are seeing and why are we seeing the things what we are seeing in terms of like the regenerative agriculture. So what you do have over here, we start to go and do mineral density analysis during a process which is called for ICP, inductively coupled plasma spectrometry. What is this one doing for us? We can technically take any kind of plant and we can go and send it to like a high pressure and a high heat treatment, a microwave digestion treatment, and we can go and put it into this ICP equipment. And when we are adding the supplies such as like argon gas and so forth, then we're going to be able to go and get a reading. So what we have looked at over here, we did look at several different mineral components, and what we have said, we can go and do the readings on ours, but we had to go and come in off with a standard. So we came back and we said, okay, let's go and look at the USDA standard reference. Let's go and use that one as like a standard, like for chaos and whatever they are listing it up. So we're corresponding back to that. Instead of looking at the actual values, we said, let's go and look at whatever is the USDA listing. That is going to be our 100% value. So we're going to be able to go and look at all of the minerals in the same chart. So this particular test was done for lacinato kale and the mash kale, which is going to be like a blend of our kales. So what we have done over here, this is the USDA standard reference, what USDA is reporting. The red line, it was going to be the lacinato kale, and over here on the bottom, you're going to be able to see like the different kind of mineral contents. The blue line is going to be the mash kale. Look at the values over here, what we did have. Obviously, not all of them is like super duper high, but there is a couple of them which is absolutely outstanding, such as like the calcium and iron and magnesium and so forth. And also which one we are extremely proud of it over here, because the sodium, we are trying to go and pull it back very hard, like from our soil. which one most cases we are seeing in most of the crops. Obviously every crop is different, so not every crop is responding in the same way, like for the fertility treatments. Some of them are picking up more than others. Also, what we have done over here, we try to go and look at and try to go and test some of our greenhouse varieties. Okay, how are those responding back, and how are they responding back to something what you normally gonna be able to go and buy, for example, like in a grocery store. This particular test was done in 2020, I believe, around like early December, which is not a prime growing time for us, just to be able to go and look at like the light level. But what we have done, we really grabbed some Chinese cabbage from the store and really get some Chinese cabbage from our greenhouses, and we have done the same study. Green line is over here, it's going to be the USDA standard. The red line is actually which one we have purchased from the grocery store. The blue line is that was our particular product over here. Look at the numbers. And we have done not just this particular one, but we have picked it up materials like from different grocery stores, and it was absolutely unbelievable for me to say, like there was a huge difference. So the saying it is, you're gonna get what you pay for. It is absolutely true when it comes down to vegetables and the correlation of the vegetables to the mineral content. Now, to be able to understand how our model is working, usually we do harvest everything as like for order. So it means when we do get an order, we usually try to go and ship it out in the same day, or if we get it overnight, then we're going to go and ship it to the next day. It means it's going to be at the chef's kitchen on the following day. So technically the product is only going to be 1 day old. Now, to put this one into perspective, normally when somebody is going to go to the grocery store during the shipping and all of the logistics what the product has to be gone through until it's going to go and reach from the producer to the table, that usually takes around like 7 days. So what we have done, we try to go and give a fair assessment and a fair comparison. So what we have done, we did put the same product into the fridge like for 7 days, and we came back and we retested the same product. So technically the blue line is when you would normally receive it when you're dealing with Chef's Garden, 1 day shipping and so forth. The yellow line, that is going to be like when we set it into the fridge, so we're going to be able to give like the 7 day down period. And even when you're looking at like the yellow lines versus for the red one, there is still going to be like a huge difference. Obviously the minerals that is going to be depleting after harvesting, which one we could go and pick it up over here, but even like our 7 day old product, it is still going to look much better like when it comes down to the mineral values versus what you can go and pick it up in a grocery store. Now, what we started going and working to, and we didn't really know much about it, and that's kind of like timing and into the picture. When we started to do all of these mineral analysis, we started going and coming to, and we started going and have some understanding. There is a strong correlation between the microbiological level, what is living like in a soil level, and versus the microbiological level, which is living in a human gut. And there is a correlation. And there is a correlation in the varieties, in types, and there is a correlation between the numbers and so forth. And that's kind of like why Amy came along in the picture, because we started to understand maybe our quality is not just due to the practices, what and how we're doing with the fertility, but maybe it is also due how we are developing like the microbiological life into the soil, and healthier soil is going to be able to go and produce not just the healthier plants, but that is also going to go and transport some of these microbiological community into the human gut system, which is healthier soil results healthier plants, and eventually it's going to go and could result like a good and a healthier human gut system. But that is Amy's territory, so I don't want to go and get into this because I'm not the expert on that. But that was kind of like, like the evolution what we have done like in the past 2 years, and currently we are still looking at. There is a huge correlation between the fertility what we are putting it out there, and not just the quality what we are putting it out there in terms of fertility, but the quantity and the plant health, and how is it all going to go and be translated into a healthier plant. It can go and resist like different kind of pathogens, different kind of insects, different kind of diseases, and we are looking at how can we go and build all of that one up from the soil within to be able to go and build like a healthier plant. So we're going to be able to go and have less focus on to be able to go and manage outside sources such as like disease and insect and so forth. It's very fascinating. It's absolutely very complex. But we are kind of like, I'm excited to be able to see the results on the second year of the study, because we have put a lot of emphasis on, and we are monitoring, like the plant health, and we are monitoring like what is the mineral level into the plants, and how can we go and put them to the ideal level, and how are we going to be able to see the impact of that into all the way across in the nutrition and in the pest and insect resistance and so forth.
That's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you have any question?
If people wanted to see more of the results of the testing, is that accessible to the public? on looking at the mineral balance in the plants, or is there a way I could share it with people?
We probably can go and make it happen. That is a decision what Bob needs to go and make, the CEO. So, but I would think normally we do share some of the findings. Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
Okay.
if you can, I think that
Yep.
would be really helpful.
Yeah, just let us know what are you interested. I mean, this is just from some of the slides, like from the very early studies. Obviously, we have done so much more.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people are, like, they've heard, I was just talking to Amy about this, they've heard the soils are depleted, but they don't really know what that
Yeah.
means. They don't have any sort of data or information really, you
Yep.
know, at least accessible to them, unless they're gonna be really nerdy and go on some huge
Yep.
rabbit hole. So I think it'd be really helpful for people to really know, because I was on that Napa cabbage, that's staggering.
Yeah, and it is really matters, you know, like the time of the year. What we have seen, there is obviously there is going to be fluctuation depending on the growing condition, which is going to have a huge influx. Obviously, when we are testing like a kale, like in a peak growing season, you know, like items in a peak growing season, and when we are testing it more like which is going to be more like in the summertime versus when we are testing it like in an off season, like in an October, the mineral levels they're going to change. Also, it is changing based on depending on the sizing of the product. So you know when you're pulling like the more like what we do call as like for the demi-sizing, or you know like when you're pinching like the very top part of the plants, they're gonna have different mineral density versus like the fully grown, and that's kind of like how the micros they really do come into the picture, because the micros they are so tender, they do have the mineral content. It can be completely different than like a full grown item. Okay, so there is a lot of factor, you know, which is gonna go and play into it, and that is exactly what we are trying to do with working with Amy. We're trying to go and map it out how those mineral levels are changing based on the different kind of sizing, and during the course of the growing year to be able to go and see, you know, and try to go and corresponding get back, not just with the fertility what we have added, but even like with the growing stage and so forth, and with the ideal growing season, because I think that is going to be really telling for us a story which one we had no really scientific idea about it until now.
Cool. I mean, they do that for wine. It's about time we did it for food, you know. It's like, oh, it was a very dry year, so the mineral content is this, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's again, good morning. I'm kind of glad you brought that one up, because they are seeing exactly the same correlation depending on the year. If they do have a drier year, they do have like a higher sugar content, or if they do have like and they're gonna react to it completely different. And we're probably gonna be able to see similar facets, you know, because some of the items we can go and track it during the course of the year, especially like on the longer term items.